So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies video. I'm, of course, Spike Knight, and in these videos, I love talking about things, movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's video, I am reviewing this new film, Eternity. So, let's get into it, shall we? Eternity is this new film produced by A24 Studios, and this film stars Miles Teller, who many people might know from the likes of Whiplash and Top Gun Maverick. He's also been in loads of other movies, but those are the movies I always think about when I think of him. And alongside Miles Teller in this film, you also have Elizabeth Olsen, who many people might know from her role as Scarlet Witch in the MCU. She's also been in loads of other movies such as Wind River. I watched that for the first time not too long ago, by the way. Really good film. This film also stars, alongside her, we also have Callum Turner in this film, who is rumoured to be the next James Bond, which I'm not thrilled about, in all honesty, but that's another topic for another day. So yes, you've got Callum Turner in this film too, and you also have Divine Joy Randolph in a supporting role. Divine Joy Randolph, who many people might know from her Oscar-winning role in The Holdovers, which is a fantastic Christmas movie, which you should check out this time of the year on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix in the UK. So yes, you should check out The Holdovers, and she's phenomenal in it. She won an Oscar for performance in that movie, and she's also a scene stealer in the TV show, the comedy murder mystery show Only Murders in the Building, in which she's in every season, and she steals the show every time she's on screen. She is a great actor. So yes, you have a great cast with this film, and that was one of the things which drew me to it. But other than the cast and other than the premise, which I'd heard a couple of weeks ago, I want to say, about this movie, I'd heard what the premise of this film was a couple of weeks ago. Other than those two things, I knew, pretty much nothing about this film. Going into it, I knew pretty much nothing about it. I'd never seen a trailer for this film, and so I was going into this film completely cold, which is sometimes a great way to go into a movie, but also sometimes cannot be the best way to go into a film. But even though I was going into this film cold, I'd heard great things about it. So I was hoping to have a good time watching this film in the cinema. I was hoping to be very pleasantly surprised by what I was going to watch. I'd heard the premise, I knew he was in the film, but that was pretty much it. Still, I went in not knowing what to expect and hoping for the best. And the Google plot synopsis of this film goes as follows. In an afterlife where souls have 1 week to decide where to spend eternity, Joan, played by Elizabeth Olsen in this film, is faced with the impossible choice between the man she spent her life with, played by Miles Teller in this film, and her first love, who died young and has waited decades for her to arrive. And her first love is played by Callum Turner in this film. And honestly, I thought this film was good, but not great. I'll be honest, and if I'm not being honest, what's the point of me doing these videos on this channel? But, I'll be honest, the first half of the film, I wasn't particularly enjoying. I didn't hate the first half of the film, but it was creaky. There were parts which just were not working for me. It felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities in the first half of the film, and the setup I was not sold on. This film has a very strange setup, in my opinion. I mean, the setup, kind of works what the film's going for, but I thought the setup could have been done better. And this film is strange, which is what you kind of expect from an A24 produced movie, A24 are the production studio behind films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a very strange movie. Dream Scenario, again, a very strange movie. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. I mean, these are films which are strange in their nature, and so when you go to watch an A24 movie at the cinema or on streaming, you expect there to be this sort of strangeness to it. You expect there to be this sort of strangeness to the movie, and you get that with this film, you get that with Eternity. But in the case of this film, for the first half of this movie, I didn't think the strangeness that was embedded into the film was working in the film's favour. I actually thought it was working to its detriment. I was watching the first half of the film and I was thinking, this is a little too strange and not in a good way. I don't think the strangeness is really helping here my enjoyment. There were parts I liked in the first half of the film, mainly because of Miles Teller. I thought Miles Teller was given the best performance in the first half of the film, but there were other parts that I didn't like. Like, I thought some of the other performances, with the exception of Divine Joy Randolph, who is great throughout this movie, alongside Miles Teller. Her and Miles Teller, I think, are the two, great, sustaining performances throughout this film. But the other performances in the first half, even from actors I really like Elizabeth Olsen, I think she's a great actor. In the first half of the film, I was sat there going, it feels like they're acting, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like they were playing characters. It felt like they were obviously acting in a performative way, and I didn't particularly enjoy that. And yeah, the first half is also trying to be this screwball comedy, and in my opinion, screwball comedies are very difficult to get right. There's some great examples of great screwball comedies, for sure, but yeah, this is not one of them, in my opinion. In the first half, it's trying to be a screwball comedy, while the comedy is kind of over the top, but it's not really, and everyone's trying to bounce comedic lines off one another, and I just didn't really think the comedy in the first half worked too well. I didn't laugh too much in the first half, and a lot of the jokes fell flat for me in the first half of the film. There were some jokes which, did work, but again, a lot of them didn't. And in the first half of the film, I was sat there thinking, I don't think this film's for me, which is a shame. But then, around about the hour mark, I'm not sure if it was about the hour mark, but let's say it was for the sake of this review today. Around about the hour mark in the movie, this film took a turn, which I didn't expect it to. And when it took that turn, when that thing happened, when a twist happened in the film, I was like, okay, now I'm getting more engaged in what's going on. Now you've got me interested a bit more than you did before. And that engagement didn't stop throughout the second half of the film. I thought the second half of the film was actually really strong, to the point that I found myself emotionally engaged in what was going on, and also entertained by what was going on in the second half of the film. The second half of the film takes the narrative in a direction I didn't expect it to, and there are twists and turns that I actually thought were done well, and the performances began to work for me a lot more in the second half than they did in the first half. The performances I weren't sold on. Elizabeth Olsen, I soon became drawn to her through her, little nuances in her performance in the second half of the film, far more than I would in the first half of the film. Callum Turner, who I'm not really a big fan of, even I began to like his performance in the second half of the film more than I did in the first half. In the second half, it felt like it became the film that it wanted to be at the start. You know what I mean? Like, in the first half of the film, I was sat there thinking, God, there must be a better way to tell this story. But then the second half of the film, I was like, oh, that's the way you tell this story. That's the thing that's going to get me interested, that's actually going to work with me. That's the thing that's going to make me connect with this film. And yeah, I sat there at the end of the movie and I was thinking, you know what? That picked up a lot for me in the second half. The second half, I liked a hell of a lot more than the first half. And again, I didn't hate the first half of the film. It had its moments. There was a couple of moments in the first half of the film where I'll admit, I laughed out loud in the cinema, but not enough to make it a fully enjoyable experience for me, you know what I mean? But in the second half, again, I just found myself so much more engaged in what was going on, and I think that's also because of the way this film gets across its messages and themes. These themes and messages surrounding, the idea that maybe imperfection is better than perfection, and that maybe when you're at your happiest in your life, maybe that day that you're at your happiest was not necessarily the time of your life when you were most happy, and with great happiness, with the best happiness, can also come the greatest sadness. And there are many themes and messages like that are interwoven into the film in a way that I really thought worked, and particularly worked in the second half of the film. In the second half of the film, the themes and the messages in the movie started to hit me a lot more. And yeah, I ended up coming out the cinema yesterday going, you know what? Yeah, that was actually worth a watch. And I probably wouldn't have said that an hour before. If I came at the cinema and about the hour mark in this when I was watching this film, I probably wouldn't have felt that. But the film is about an hour and 54 minutes long, according to Google. And I think at about the hour mark, it takes a turn that you don't expect to, and I think that's when it ends up becoming the film that you want it to be, and that's when it really starts to work. I think that's when it, you know, hits the ground running. Again, the first half isn't bad, but it's just, a lot of the stuff in the first half felt inconsequential. I didn't really believe in the relationships, but in the second half I was like, actually, I'm buying into the relationships more. I'm buying into these character dynamics. I'm buying into these characters more. And you know what? I care about what's going to happen to them. And again, I wasn't expecting that. So, in conclusion, I'm not saying the film is great, but what I am saying is it gets a lot better, at least in my opinion, in the second half of the film. And one last thing I'll say is the strangeness which started to bother me in the first half of the movie didn't bother me in the second half of the film. In fact, it started to work in the film's favour. The strange charm of the film began to rub off on me, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm enjoying this, which again, I wasn't expecting to say in the first half of the film, but in the second half I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is actually this is playing around with its premise and doing it well. At least it was, again, in my opinion. So, yes, I ended up enjoying Eternity a lot more than I expected to. And I think that's also because of Miles Teller, who is really good in this film. He's got this magnetic performance, especially when he's alongside Divine Joy Randolph. And the thing is, right, with Miles Teller, when he gets given good material, he can be great. I've seen him in films when he's given really bad material, and he's not that good, and he's actually, he's given quite a poor performance. But in this film, he's given great material, like he was with Whiplash, and like he was with Top Gun Maverick, and you can see that he's actually really, you know, chewing up this pie, you know what I mean? He's getting his teeth into this role, and I think, again, that helps with this film, and helps with your engagement. I think Miles Teller and Divine Joy Randolph and Elizabeth Olsen, for that matter, in the second half, make this a better film than I thought it was going to end up being. So yes, I liked Eternity, I didn't love it. And so, for that reason, I'm going to say that Eternity, I'm going to give it a, you know what, I'm feeling generous today, not quite sure why, because I've got a lot on my mind right now, but I'm going to give this film a 7.5 out of 10. Because the second half, again, I was really surprised by how much it worked for me. And, you know, you might look at this film and go, oh, boo-hoo, it's a film about Elizabeth Olsen who has to choose between two very attractive guys, Miles Teller and Callum Turner. So really, this film is about three very attractive people fighting over one another. That's what, that's what it's really about. But actually, it's more than that. You know, it's not just, I mean, the first half of the film is about, oh, who is Elizabeth Olsen going to choose? Miles Teller or, you know, Callum Turner? That's what the film is about in the first half, but in the second half it becomes about something else. And, you know, that's when it began to work for me. Maybe that is why it began to work for me, because it became more about it became less about who is she going to choose and more about the message and the themes that this film was trying to get across, if you follow me. Yeah. I think it's a good film, and I'd say it's worth watching. Just stick with it, because you might watch the first half and go, not loving this, but then you get to the second half and you go, actually no, that was that took a turn and that took some twists that I didn't expect it to, but actually worked in the film's favour. You know, I think that's what happened. Narratively, it goes in a direction that I thought it wasn't going to go in, and I actually quite liked. So there you go. Yeah. Overall, I thought that Eternity was worth a watch. And, yeah, I think that's because of the second half of the film, which saved the film for me personally. And so, all in all, as I've already said, as I'm going to say once more in this review today, almost forgot the name of the film there, Eternity is a 7.5 out of 10 from me. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's video. If you have seen Eternity, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to the video. Yeah, you could listen to this video. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe. on this video, on this channel. Like and subscribe to the channel because it is much appreciated, and look forward to many more videos coming very, very soon on this channel. That's what he said. Thanks guys for watching this video today, and I will see you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye.